Alright, hello, good morning, good evening, and good night. I hope you guys are doing absolutely fantastic because today I want to talk to you guys about some underrated Yieldmax ETFs. So what I've done today is I've gathered a collection of Yieldmax ETFs which I believe to be underrated in terms of their price appreciation to their underlying stocks. Now what I want to talk about in this video is I want to look at the dividends of each of these ETFs, and I also want to look at how they compare the Yieldmax version, the share price versus their underlying, and I want to compare the dividend rates to the returns of their underlying. What I found here was most Yieldmax ETFs actually underperformed their underlying. So like NFLY is one of them, for example. It paid out a 58% dividend, but Netflix has actually appreciated about 74%. So I want to touch on each of those for each individual Yieldmax ETF, which I'm going to talk about, because I know we talk about YMAX a lot, but it's also kind of fun to pick and choose some Yieldmax ETFs from time to time. So that's what we're going to talk about in this video. I hope you guys do enjoy. We're currently up to 6,034 subscribers, gaining subscribers every day, which I'm super grateful for. 439 subscribers in the past 20 days. We keep banging them out, so thank you very much to anyone who's new, who's joining, posting videos every day. Cool. A little background. It's funny because I'm making a video on individual Yieldmax ETFs, but I actually keep on buying more YMAX. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about my YMAX position in another video, but just to kind of give you guys an update, I did buy more shares, but today we're talking about a couple different Yieldmax ETFs, which YMAX holds. The first one being NFLY. And just to kind of give a shout out to each one, I have NFLY, I want to talk about AMZY, I want to talk about FBY, and I want to talk about SQY. SQY I actually own in my other portfolio, not in my Questrade, but my CIBC. But I want to talk about each one because they're all different. Even though they do the same thing, they're all synthetic cover call strategies on underlying stocks. They all perform different. So for example, why do I have NFLY here? I have it because look, in the past year, it's gone down 1.76% while paying roughly a 60% distribution. These distributions are not necessarily set in stone because of course they fluctuate every single month, but when looking at NFLY, you could see here they pay 79 cents, 50 cents, 57 cents, 30 cents, but you could see they pay dividends high as 96, 80 cents, $1.25. So I would say this roughly 55 to 60% yield would be pretty standard across the entire year, and the ETF only went down 1.76%. So NFLY, Netflix is the first one that I think is pretty good. And when we compare this 58% dividend to Netflix, the actual underlying Netflix went up 74. That's the percent return. So 75% in the past year. It's been doing absolutely fantastic. As you guys know, Netflix had a huge price fall in the past couple of years. 2022, when kind of stocks were even actually rallying at the time, Netflix really hit a low and has only continued to rally from them. A fantastic play from Yieldmax in terms of choosing that underlying stock to put a Yieldmax ETF on. Another one, fantastic. And one thing you'll notice, Netflix, Amazon, Facebook, and Square, they're all great underlying companies in my position. And these are companies that will appreciate long term. And these, judging by their Yieldmax prices, are companies that are benefiting from slow appreciation over time. And we see that with AMZY too, only down 5.16%. At first glance, you're like, oh, we're down 5.16%. But we look at Amazon, Amazon's up 41%. Keep this in mind. And AMZY is paying a 50% dividend. Let's see how the dividends kind of stack up here. You see a lot of AMZY's dividends, they're consistent at about the 40 to 60 cent range. This month was on the higher month, so we'll say they probably pay about a 40% dividend, only down 5.6%, where AMZY's up 41%. But you got to keep in mind, they're paying out probably about 40% in terms of dividends. So I think AMZY has done very well when compared to Amazon, the underlying. Now we're going to our next one, which is FBY, the Meta Yieldmax Option Income Strategy ETF, paying a current 61% dividend. Let's see how the dividends stack up over time. This was a huge last dividend at 92 cents. We can see here, they've actually paid out some pretty good dividends. I'd say their average dividend to be about 80 to 90 cents. So I would guesstimate that this 60% is pretty bang on with what they've been paying out for the year. Let's see the stock price. Down 5% in the past year, while paying a 61% dividend. We do the math, that's roughly about 56% that we've earned over the past year in investing in FBY, where we look at Meta's up about 78%. Cool. Now, when you're looking at these, you might as well ask yourself, why don't we just invest in Netflix, for example, or in Amazon? Why are we buying a Yieldmax version of it? Because you can see here that each underlying is outperforming the Yieldmax version. Well, does Netflix pay a dividend? Does Amazon pay a dividend? Does Meta pay a dividend? No. And that's why we invest for Yieldmax. And this is what I don't think a lot of people understand. We invest because we want income from great underlying stocks. We don't necessarily hold any Netflix or Amazon or Meta, but we're invested in the price returns. When these companies, underlying companies increase, our Yieldmax ETF also should increase potentially, but really our income increases, and that's what we want to see. We want to see the underlying perform over a long period of time and ourselves collecting those dividends, because that's why we invest in Yieldmax. And the last one we're going to talk about, very exciting, is SQY. SQY is one that I actually hold in my portfolio. Just to give an update, I'm down about 22% in terms of my total holdings, which equates to about $200. Keep this in mind, because SQY has actually paid out for me about almost 500, we'll say 475 in terms of dividends over the past year. In terms of monthly income, SQY has actually been a very good investment for me. I probably made about 20% this year. We look at SQY, I just wanted to add it in here because it's one of kind of my favorites, because I personally own it, down about 16%. So this goes to show a Yieldmax ETF that's even down 16.5%, where the underlying, if we go to the past year, is up about 50%. It's paid out 75% in dividends. Is this true? We see the last dividend coming at $1, but SQY has paid out some pretty big dividends. It's been extremely inconsistent, paying dividends as low as 38 cents, paying as high as $2.14, but on an average, I do think that about the 75% marker is pretty fair. We subtract 16 from that, we get about 60%. So I think SQY has actually done very well for the position that it's in. And these were just 4 Yieldmax ETFs, some single Yieldmax ETFs, not like YMAX where it holds a basket of all of them, where you could potentially put your money and get a better return while keeping a relatively stable share price. So I hope you guys did enjoy. Of course, any kind of future results are not indicative of past results, but I mean, this just goes to show that there are Yieldmax ETFs which have been able to keep their share price relatively flat, negative 1.7%, and have great dividends. So if you guys did enjoy this video, remember to subscribe. We're up to 6,034 subscribers. So I want to say thank you to everyone who watched. I hope to see you in the next video, and take it easy till then. Have a great day, okay?